time to call to order the regular meeting of McAllister City Council Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. We do have a quorum. Mr. Fitzworth, would you lead us in the invocation and pledge, please?
Lord, we come together tonight to honor our city, to bring together righteousness and peace in you, Lord. Give us guidance and understanding, Lord. Lord, we ask that you give us wisdom, and with wisdom we gain knowledge, and with knowledge we get understanding to further your kingdom here on earth. In Jesus' name, amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
Cox?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Boatright?
Here.
Pritchard?
Here.
Mayor?
Here. We're now to citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Residents may address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda. Residents must provide their name and address. Council requests that comments be limited to 5 minutes. I don't have anybody signed up on the non-agenda items, but open it up in case anybody does. All right. Seeing no one, we'll move to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. The agenda tonight consists of A, approval of minutes from August 20th, 2020, special meeting of McAllister City Council. B, approval of minutes from August 25th, 2020, regular meeting of McAllister City Council. C, approval of claims for August 19th, 2020 through September 1st, 2020. D, consider an act upon indefinitely postponing tort claim filed by Brent Lott. E, consider an act upon indefinitely postponing tort claim filed by Robert Schrader. F, concur with mayor's appointment of Thadita Wiggins to the cemetery board as replacement for Mr. John Proctor for a term to expire December 31st, 2021. Would anyone like anything removed?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
it's Councilman Stevens.
Okay.
I would like, sorry, I've lost my place here. I'd like to go ahead and remove the approval of claims, please.
C?
D.
C, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other removals? Take a motion and second to approve.
Mayor, this is Councilman Pritchard.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would like E removed, please.
Say E?
E, yes.
E. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, one more time. Any other removals? In that case, I take a motion and a second.
Make a motion, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, to approve items A, B, D, and F. Motion, Councilman Brown, second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Boatright?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Yeah.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. Councilman Stevens, item C.
Yes, Mr. Stasiak, on page number 26 in the agenda packet, it's under the general fund, page number 3. We have a consultation there with another attorney. Can you tell me what's going on with that, please?
Did you say page 26?
Yes, of the agenda. And then it's page number 3 under the general fund.
Oh, under the,
portion.
okay, page 3. Is this Ronnie May for $375?
Yes, sir.
I do not
have an answer for that, but I will certainly get you an answer and let you have that tomorrow.
Okay,
Hold,
thank you.
hold on just a second. Our CFO, Sherry Swift, is here, and she has an answer for you.
Okay.
Councilman Stevens, this is Sherry. This is from our municipal court where we've had, where they've had to bring in an attorney, the judges, yeah, for, alternate, I guess, for municipal court.
He filled in for our normal judge, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is that what, I can.
Yeah,
barely
oh, yeah,
hear
I'm sorry,
Is
yes.
that what's going on?
Yes, that's what it was. He filled in. I guess our normal judge couldn't be there, and he filled in.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Take a motion and a second to approve item C. Motion Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yep.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Councilman Pritchard, item E.
Yeah, so, and I apologize, because I'm still unclear about the process here, but the agenda item calls for us to indefinitely postpone this tort claim. Why is the request to postpone it?
The request to postpone it, Councilman, this is Pete Stasiak, is so that it gives our insurance carrier an opportunity to investigate the claim and make a determination.
Okay. And how long if we indefinitely postpone it, is it actually indefinitely, or is there a time period? I can't remember.
I believe it's 60 days. Let me ask the city clerk real quick. Is there a period for postponing?
No, but it gives them an opportunity to do their investigation, and it gives them the opportunity to do their investigation and gather all the information that they need, and then make a recommendation to the council.
Could you hear that, Councilman Pritchard? Did you say?
I could. I'll make a motion then to approve the.
Item E. Okay, is there a second?
To approve the claim?
Yeah.
I'll make it.
We got a second, Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cox,
Is that to postpone
Yep.
the claim? Or approve?
Boatright,
Yes.
I think what was written.
Postpone.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to public hearing. All persons interested in any ordinance listed under scheduled business shall have an opportunity to be heard in accordance with Article 2, Section 212B of the city charter. Tonight's hearing is an ordinance of the city of McAllister, Oklahoma, amending ordinance number 2687, which established the budget for fiscal year 2020-2021, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for a severability clause, and declaring an emergency. Take a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Motion, Councilman Smith. Second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yep.
Mayor.
Yes, and we're now in public session. Anyone wishing to address us on the budget ordinance? Seeing no one, I take motion second to close. Motion, Vice Mayor Brown, second, Councilman Smith. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes. We're now on to scheduled business. Agenda item number 1, presentation and discussion of the McAllister Concrete Clear Wells evaluation performed by Infrastructure Solutions Group LLC. Mr. Burke.
Mayor, I'd like to start off this presentation if I could.
Okay.
Councilmen that are on the call, I emailed a packet to you of information from Infomark on the water plant. Hopefully you have received that. I've also handed it out to the councilman here tonight. And what I want to do is I want to talk just briefly about the capacity of our water plant and what happens to the different components of that water plant when something fails. So first and foremost, based on their calculations, we have 4 raw water pumps that pump water to our water plant. They come out of Lake McAllister. Each one of those has a capacity of about 2.5 million gallons. So the total capacity of pumping that we can do from the Lake McAllister is 9,992,000 or million gallons. If you remember, most of our conversations are we have total capacity of 9 to 10 million gallons, and the reason I'm going through this is just kind of prove that we do have this type of capacity. If one of those pumps fails, then our capacity drops to 7.5 million gallons per day. If 2 of those pumps fail out there, then we drop to right around 5 million gallons per day. Keep in mind, on a normal day, we produce about 3.5 to 4 million gallons of clean water to the city. So it kind of gives you an idea of what happens if we lose one of those raw water pumps at Lake McAllister. Second thing I want to talk about is the capacity of our clarifiers. And this is going to become important as I talk to you about this. Each one of those 3 clarifiers can produce about 3.4 million gallons per day, or a total capacity with the clarifiers of 10,260,000 gallons. So very close to that 10 million gallon capacity. The problem is if we lose one of those clarifiers, that capacity drops to 6.8 million. If you lose both 2 of the clarifiers, drops to 3.4 million. I want to let you know, and we've had this discussion previously, one of those clarifiers is currently down, and it's been down for a while as we investigate what the problem is. It has lost a gasket in the main drives, and in order to fix those components, you have to dismantle the entire clarifier, and that's about a $40,000 fix to replace a gasket in that drive. So we're working towards getting that accomplished right now, but one of those clarifiers currently is down. The good news is we're past the really hot season of the year. The third part I want to talk about are the filters. We always talk about those filters and the capacity of the filters. Those filters have the capacity to handle right at 10,800,000 gallons of 10 million gallons of water per year or per day, just like we've talked about. Take one of those offline, you're down to about 8 million gallons. Take 2 off, you're down to about 6 million gallons. So this is the importance of keeping those filters all up and running and operational. At any time you're backwashing one of those filters, for the most part, a lot of times you have one of those filters that is down, but if one of them is being repaired and you're backwashing one, then you're down 2. So it becomes very important that we keep all of those filters operational. The next item, which is one of the items that we're here to talk about tonight, is the clear well. And the clear well is just holding tanks, concrete holding tanks out there, and there's 2 of them. They're side by side. Each one has the capacity of 1,044,582 gallons, or almost 2.1 million gallons of holding capacity out at our water treatment plant. One of these clear wells has been down for a year and a half,
About 3 years.
about 3 years. And that's why we're here tonight, is to talk about this clear well and the importance of having that capacity for our residents here at the city of McAllister. The last item is our 4 high-service pumps. These are the 4 pumps that send finished water into our distribution system into the city. And as you can see, these are very high-powered pumps, and they have the capacity to push almost 21 million gallons of water into the city on a day-to-day basis if all 4 of them were operating. Because of what we can produce, it's great that we have 4 pumps, because for the most time we're only utilizing 2 of those pumps, and it's good to use them at different times. So there's a couple of scenarios here. The good news is that plant, and we've confirmed this, and Mr. Burke's been through these numbers, of almost 10 million gallons per day, which is what we've talked about in the past. If you got a clarifier down, you're down to about 6.8 million gallons. Doesn't really get us in trouble unless we have a failure somewhere else in another component, whether it would be one of our filters, one of our pumps goes down, those type of things. As you start to get combinations, you start losing capacity at this plant very quickly. The clarifier is going to be repaired. It's about a 7 to 9 day process to fix that, and about a $40,000 expense. So that'll be coming back online here real soon. So if you have 1 clarifier down and 2 filters, you're down to about 6 million gallons. There's a number of different scenarios and limitations. This also talks about the clear well, the total volume being on one of those of 1 million gallons. With 1 high service pump, there's only 4. It talks about capacity, those type of things. I'm going to let Mr. Burke get into this side of it and discuss the importance of these clear wells and our ability to store water for our community and our citizens. So with that, Dale, if you want to take this.
Thank you, Pete. Yes, as Mr. Stasiak was talking about there, the total capacity right now at the water plant, as it stands today, is only 1 million gallons. And if you're producing 3.5 to 4 million gallons a day, you can see you can deplete that clear well real quick if you don't have both of them online. Okay, you got the numbers there in front of you. About 4 hours capacity. I do know when we repaired the 30-inch line, or replaced the 30-inch line out at McAllister Lake, we had everything topped off, all the towers topped off, the clear wells was topped off before we took that system down. And when we got the system back online, we had 4 feet in these clear wells. They're 14 feet deep. And it would have been better to have 4 feet on both sides, but we only had 4 on one side. Okay, so very, very important that you have storage for treated water out the plant, because you really never know what's going to happen. Okay, I have not looked at this, but I think that's pretty much what this summarizes, isn't it, Pete?
It is, and we can go into your presentation and talk about
Very
why
good.
you need to do this repair and what's involved in this repair at this time.
Good deal.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, sir. Can everybody at home hear me?
I'll wait until it warms up a bit. Let it come on. There it is. second that one, I'll get that going for you.
Okay.
While he's doing that, what kind of shape is our other clear well in?
Both clear wells are basically in the same shape. The only reason we took the west one offline is because it appeared to leak and it was losing more water than the east one. So
we'll be looking at doing this again in the future then for the other.
well, the proposal tonight is to do both sides.
Okay.
Okay. Infrastructure Solutions Group, engineering here in McAllister. Evaluation of the clear wells. Again, I'll just rehash some of this material. Clear wells consist of two 1 million gallon concrete basins for total storage of right around 2 million gallons. They were constructed back in the early 80s when the water treatment plant was constructed. The West Bay has been offline for at least 3 years. I think it's closer to 4, but there was no exact date of when that happened. And the basins are actually separated with concrete wall in between them for the purpose of taking one down, doing maintenance on it while you still have one. That's important, and I'll show you why here in a minute. Some of the issues that we have identified is cracks on the exterior wall of the clear well. That's a clear well there. It's about 14 feet deep. About 7 feet of it sticks out of the ground, and about 7 feet of it's buried. So everything you see on the outside is just on the exterior. As you can see, there's 2 or 3 cracks right there. Inside, you go look, you can see some additional cracking inside. Just showed you a bunch of, just showing a bunch of pictures, what kind of condition the clear well is in and where the water is going. One of the main things that's creating the issue is there's actually a construction joint. There's one construction joint in each cell. Construction joint expansion joint is something that just allows you to pour the 2 parts of the concrete and allows the concrete to grow and shrink over time. If you look at it, this is a piece of pipe. It's about a foot deep. I can push it down inside the crack, inside the clear well itself. On the outside, that's my hand, and you can see how far I can reach inside. And that's actually on the clear well that we are using, is where I took that picture from. Inside, this goes across the floor, and that's a piece of rebar you see right in the middle of the picture. Okay, pretty bad shape as far as the construction joint. Some other issues that are going on inside the tank. This is the ceiling of the tank itself. That long, narrow, rusted-looking bar there is actually the rebar in the ceiling itself. And about everywhere you look, you see the rebar. That's one of the grade beams, the main support structures. And as you can see, you can see 4 of the bars right there. And that is not the same picture. That's of another location. One other issue that we have is the center wall between the 2 clear wells is leaking. And the reason that's an issue is anytime we do any repairs on one side versus the other, it's got to be completely dry. You can't have water coming in on you. We've tried to fix the west side a number of times, and we just battled water all the time. I talked to some tank manufacturers on this particular proposal, and the very first thing they would do is go in there and stop that water from leaking. I don't know how this would work, but this is.
Not showing your video.
I'm sorry. Is it on here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. just a picture. Around the clear wells themselves, around the foundation, the perimeter of the tanks, there's actually some foundation drains, so that any water that collects under the foundation itself would be drained away. There's actually an east foundation drain, and there's a south foundation drain. This one here is the east one. It basically goes along the north side of the tank itself. And James, you're telling me there's a video button on here? Is it the center?
It should automatically play. If it's not, I don't know why it's not.
Here, I'll just do it like this.
If it gives you control on the screen, there it goes.
There's an 8-inch pipe coming out of that head wall. There's the clear well in the background, and this is basically draining the north wall. Okay, the south foundation drain. Okay, it's 8-inch pipe. It's coming out of the west side, and just let the council know that's like it all the time. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Anytime, there's always water coming out of there.
So that's water coming from the clear well to the drain underneath?
Drain underneath. When you walk down to that basin, down to that pipe, you get a strong odor of chlorine, because that's chlorinated water coming out. Yeah, and that's only with the east basin online. That doesn't even, if you brought both of them online, it'd probably be more than, well.
Be a river.
Yes, pretty much. I tried to estimate the water loss from what we saw there. The east foundation drain, that was the first one we looked at, basically 23 million gallons a year. The one that was flowing really good was the south foundation itself, and as you can see, I estimate around 95 million gallons a year. And I expect it to be a lot more than that, okay? But I want to be conservative on my numbers. So if you add the two together, you're talking around 322,000 gallons a day. About 118 million gallons a year, and it's probably because of the size of the movie itself. Estimated cost, we just talked about. We did a study of what it costs per 1,000 gallons, around 3.25, $3.25. You can't see it, but that pretty much equates out to $382,000 a year to treat that water that's just running out on the ground, even before you get it into the distribution system itself. A little bit of layout of the clear wells. Mr. Stasiak talked a little bit about the clarifiers. The clarifiers are on the top left-hand side. They're 120-foot clarifiers. We looked at a couple of options. One is, well, do we just build new tanks and abandon the existing clear well? The existing clear well's in the red box. The blue circles there is where we would preliminary looked at where some new tanks would go. One of the options we looked at was 2 1 million gallon tanks, steel tanks. Estimated cost right around 2.6 million. Advantage of those is they're long life. They would be brand new. They do require quite a bit of maintenance because you got to keep them painted or they're gonna get rusted on you. We looked in the area. There's always talk about one of these days we're gonna have to build us a new water treatment plant, and there's some land around there. So if we built the new water plant close to the same area, we could use those tanks again. It's located on existing property. Disadvantages, of course, is capital cost. 2.6 million is a lot to come up with. Maintenance cost is very high, and you can't see it down there, but the last item there is time. Anything over $1 million, we got to go to a vote of the people. Second option would be pre-stressed concrete ground storage tanks. These are popular right now because they're a lot less maintenance costs. It's right around 2.685 million to build those. The advantage, again, they're 50-year life. Can be used if we build a new plant in the same area, located on existing property. They're low maintenance costs as far as steel tanks. You don't have to paint them all the time like you do steel. Disadvantage is capital cost and time. One of the vendors came back to me and said, "Hey, we can build you 2 million gallon tank and save you a lot of money." I said, "Well, give me the cost estimate." It's 2.1 million. He said about half a million there. The advantages would be the same, except if you only build one tank, you don't have redundancy. Therefore, if you ever have to take that one tank down at any time, you're basically out of pumping water to town. I went ahead and showed you this, but I would not recommend this one at all. The last option we're looking at is rehabilitation of the existing concrete clear wells. And of course, there's 2 tanks, 1 million gallons each. I actually got a couple of tank vendors in here along with some material suppliers, and they ran through and gave me some cost estimates, and it's right around $850,000 to rehab the existing tanks that you have now. The advantage is it's less maintenance than if you do a steel tank. It's less capital cost. Time, it's under the $1 million, so we can move forward on it as soon as funding gets in place. Disadvantages, 10 to 15 years is what we're looking at. And I don't think they could be used with the existing plant if you built a new plant. If you rehab the tank, what we're talking about doing is putting an elastomeric coating around the outside, the perimeter wall of the tank itself, where the cracking was, all the way from the floor all the way to the top. You can see it here in this picture what we're talking about. So we're basically making a new exterior wall around it. Okay, the green is where we really have our most issues, and that's that construction joint. We would go all the way from the top, all the way up through the down across the bottom, up the baffle walls, down the other side, make it about 4 feet wide. And what we would do is put a non-stick material over it so that the coatings that we put in there can move. Okay, without cracking. So that's what the rehab would look like when we got done. Cost. Here's a summary cost of all 4 options. Anywhere from 2.685 down to 850,000. I know I went through that quick. Do we have any questions? Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. I got one more chart. I'm sorry. If we choose to go this way, and this is my recommendation, I got a little different approach. I like to put out a request for bids and proposals, and I like to get prospective contractors and material suppliers in here to talk to the city staff, and we pre-approve them. I want to make sure whoever comes in these tanks, this is what they do. one of the persons that I talked to, this is all that they do, okay? This is a major job, and I just don't want somebody to try it out on McAllister, okay? One of the other things is they talked about is we can get a longer than just a two-year warranty on it. I'm proposing a minimum of 5 years. After 5 years, we take each side down and we go in there and we inspect it. We make sure everything's good. If there's any sealant, any material that's coming up, we rebond it back to the concrete. We have a selection committee, the city staff and city engineer, and we look at the price. We asked them to provide warranty, because there was one of those suppliers said, hey, we'll give you a 10-year warranty. I said, great, okay. And when can they get to it? Okay, so that would be my recommended approach if we did the rehab. Yes, sir, Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir. So if we went with the rehab, and you're saying basically it'll last like 10 years, right?
10 plus years.
And then
yes.
you got to come back and well, we may not have to worry about it, some of us. But you have to come back and just start the same process all over again. Now, the extended 5-year warranty, you didn't give a cost up here, right? So,
Yes, the $850,000 would include a 5-year warranty.
okay, so we're basically, say, $850, so we gotta keep it under $1 million. And then, I'm trying to figure out, I'm just trying to put it all together here.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all pretty much rehab. The
It
new
is.
stuff, so, cause if we keep just patching this stuff up, I'm not pushing to get, I'm just asking questions.
Absolutely.
So if you just went ahead and just say, hey, let's just chunk it, let's do something new, then you got a cost of 2.6 million or whatever that was.
Yes, sir.
Over how many years? If you had to take a note out, we're gonna have to bond or what?
You'd have to go get a bond, or
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a
you
bond.
could borrow money from OWRB. There's a bank or any, so, there's different rates and things out there.
Well, I'm concerned that if all this collapsed, what happens to the water? And what happened to the people? Will they be out of, they're gonna be out of water, pretty much.
If your clear well collapse, you will be out of water. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Smith?
Okay, this is a top-down view,
It is. It's a plan view of the clear well itself.
so this is on the bottom?
It's on the
Expansion
bottom,
joint,
the sides, and the
all
top.
the way up?
It's all the way around the
So are those the
perimeter.
only places that you got leaks in the bottom of this thing?
That's the most concerning places. We got cracks down the walls
Right.
that I showed that we also got water leaking.
But you do have some problems in the floor here, besides at the expansion joints?
There is some cracking in the floor between the places that I have identified. One of the things we looked at is when the tank manufacturer came down, he looked on the floor, and he wasn't real concerned about those. He said they're small enough that he wasn't real concerned about those. And I concurred. You know how concrete cracks, it just always does.
So this membrane would not go across the floor?
It will
would
not.
just come out about 4 foot?
About
foot?
2 foot and bury itself back into the concrete itself, yes. We can always see what the cost would be to create an entire bathtub in there, which is, that's the best scenario that you can do, but I think once you look at the cost of that, it's gonna be just as much as a new tank would be at that point.
I'm a little bit confused. We have a lot of water coming out from underneath the tank, but we don't have a problem with the floor of the tank.
The construction joints, the joints that I showed you, I stuck my hand in and you can see the rebar, okay? That goes all the way across the floor in 2 locations.
Okay, so we do actually have an issue with the floor of the tank,
We
just don't have the cracks, it's the joint.
We don't have the cracks between the joints. If you remember the picture with, can I borrow this? This is actually looking down on the floor itself. It actually goes down the floor, up the wall, and across the roofs. But, you know, the major concern is on the floor and up the walls, okay? That's what the 2 green stripes would take care of.
Okay, that makes sense. That, you just threw me when you said that about not a problem with the floor.
So, the other thing that we keep in mind is chances are we'll get a new water plant in 10 or 12 or 15 years. And so, if this thing lasts until then, we probably replace all of this at the same time, right?
That's correct. The purpose of this would be a stopgap measure. Something to give you until we get ready to do the water treatment plant to clear the new clear wells and everything else. That's the purpose of the rehab.
Yeah, our bond debt doesn't end until 2034, so we're looking 14 years out on that. So realistically, we wouldn't be able to do a bond of the amount that would be needed until we were very close to having that debt paid off.
Sure,
So buying 10 years is a pretty good deal for us.
Right. And when you build a water plant, okay, the clear wells are just gonna be part of the cost of building the new plant itself.
Right.
You know, 2 or 3 million, maybe by then it might be 4 million over a 40 or 50 million dollar plant. So.
Yeah, and they have some, who knows what the technology will be like.
Oh,
in 10
sure,
years, yeah.
sure. It might be a lot less, you
Yeah.
know, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
How
Yes,
much
sir.
did you say we were losing a month on this water that's getting out of here now, that we would sell back to the city or to the rural water districts? Are we,
You're losing right at 118 million gallons a year.
okay?
Okay, that equates to right at around 325,000 a day.
So something needs to be done pretty quick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're basically treating over $300,000 worth of water a year and just pouring it in the drain.
Mayor, this is Councilman Pritchard. Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Or a few questions. Did I hear you correctly that we're currently only utilizing, and have been for the last 3 or 4 years, one of the clear wells?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so in each clear well or each basin is 1 million gallons, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. A different question, that talking about the cost of the treated water that we're losing, I think the presentation says $3.25 per 1,000 gallons. How did we arrive at that $3.25? I mean, what costs are in that $3.25?
Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but the auditors came up with that number, right?
Yeah, that would have been a number that came up probably a couple of years ago. I think at our last presentations with the rural water districts, I think our number was 359 is what we had gone to as of July 1st. So that's probably a audited financial number from maybe 1 or 2 years ago as we've been working on this process.
Well, and if I remember correctly, I think that number includes all of our administrative expense, all of the maintenance on the distribution system. Is that correct?
And any capital expenditures, yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like to me that figure is inappropriate for this calculation. I mean, we're certainly losing water, but it doesn't seem like that. You know, it seems like we should have a number that has just the direct cost of that water. So the labor to produce it, the utilities produce it, the chemicals to produce it. Like, I don't know that, you know, I mean, if we fix this problem, any cost from the water production or distribution downstream is not going to change. I mean, if the clear well leaks zero, our admin cost and our repair or maintenance costs on the rest of the system doesn't change. And so, you know, I think we'd be well advised to have that figure when we're thinking through the economics of replacing or not replacing, or what replacement option we're going to go with. I've got I have a question. Could we put in one tank and repair half of the clear well, or maybe even do something where we put in one tank and not repair the clear well and just use the system with one tank? I mean, I'm really trying to wonder, because it seems like we have two options here. One is repair the existing system, which is, you know, more expensive on, like, if you think about it on a per year basis, and maybe more difficult to do. And buying the new tank seems like it's going to produce a better solution, but it's going to be more expensive. So is there a way that we can get a better solution that is, you know, also cost effective for us?
In my opinion, the hydraulics making the two work together, I ain't going to say it'd be impossible to do, but it'd be very difficult to do. And what I mean by that is, I don't want water just used out of one tank and let the water in the other tank getting stale and old. That creates issues among itself. THHMs and HAA5s. So
that makes sense. I have one last question. How much money do we have? Like, what's our fund balance, or our unrestricted fund balance in the infrastructure fund?
That fund generates about $2 million a year. When you talk about unrestricted funds, you know, we have designations for all of that money for this calendar year. So there's probably money available, but it's been designated based on what we presented during the budget. So when you talk about undesignated funds, I mean, we can always rearrange things. But when you're talking about,
well,
$2 million is all we have for all infrastructure citywide, that takes a very large chunk of it.
Right, but I guess, let me try to ask the question I really want to know the answer to, is how much money do we have in the bank right now that's not committed to a project, you know, that's actively ongoing?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, Councilman. You know, we've got an asphalt overlay project going on right now, which is $560,000, or over 25% of the funds available. I mean, we're looking at panel replacement programs. We're looking at sidewalk systems. We're looking at a number of different things, water and sewer line replacements. There's a lot of projects in the pipeline that would have to be rearranged or postponed for a period of time.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman. Oh, go ahead.
Councilman Pritchard?
Mayor, this is Councilman Cox. I've got a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, on the rehabilitation efforts, if we do the rehabilitation, and let's say it gets us 8-9 years, and we still do not have the capital money, or we're not ready to
put the water treatment plant in, does the elastomeric coating allow for another rehabilitation, or will the concrete have degraded so far that it won't support another rehabilitation effort? Is this a one-time fix and we're done, or is this a two-time fix and we're done, or a three-time fix and we're done?
This is Dale Burke. You know, I can't say what the concrete is going to look like 10 years from now. But as far as the coating itself, you can go back and reapply local areas if it's come debonded and continue to get life out of the coating.
Okay, and my second question is all of these are present day numbers. Do we have any numbers that take into account the full life cycle of the 50 years on the new tanks so that we can see what the total cost will be at the end of life?
I have not put those numbers together, but I can.
Okay.
Councilman Smith, you had your hand up a minute ago.
I'm just wondering, what's the next step here? Are you gonna come up with your top one or two proposals and how this would actually take place over what time frame? And
I think the second item on the agenda is talk about funding. Okay, my recommendation is we move forward with the rehabilitation of the clear well. So the next step, I'm prepared to go out for bids, just as soon as the council directs me to.
Councilman Stevens, did you say something a minute ago?
Yeah, maybe I'm looking at this differently than some of the other councilmen and city staff and infrastructure solutions. But just kind of looking at the numbers and what we've gone through recently, and I feel like with what we've told about the water plant being in much better shape, and I know we've discussed these clear wells before, and I remember Mr. Stasiak stating that. I feel like with what I understand in the next budget item or the next item that we're about to discuss, is that we're going to talk about spending $850,000 on something that we hopefully get 10 years of life out of, but we're looking to finance it for 12 years. That just seems like a very poor investment to me for what everything we have going on. I know that this is a complex problem that we're having to address now, whether we want to or not. I understand that with a lot of our water solutions here in McAllister, but this seems like we could, and I'm not downgrading the work that's been done. It's very good and informative, but it seems like we need to find a solution that will maybe stretch our dollars more, or at least allow us to tackle it in a way and go, we might have to do a bigger buy brief and take it to the vote of the people. But I feel like we could finance this a little bit differently. Because if I'm not wrong, didn't we only have $500,000 in the budget for the clear wells this year, Mr. Stasiak?
I don't have that information in front of me, Councilman. I don't have the capital plan in front of me. If I could, Councilman,
it seems like
Councilman, if I could very quickly, the presentation that was just shown on the rehabilitation of these clear wells was 10 plus years. So we're looking, and Mr. Burke stated 10 to 15 years. What you have in your packet are 3 amortization schedules, one for 10 years, one for 12 years, and one for 15 years, to give you an idea of what that looks like. So there are 3 amortization schedules in the packet. Staff is recommending.
I understand.
Staff is recommending a 10-year loan.
Yeah, and I understand that, and that makes perfect sense, but we're also pledging a $900,000 CD against it as well.
Is
that
not
correct?
That is not correct. That's the Bank First loan. Ours is to go with the First National Bank loan.
Okay, so there's not a certificate of deposit being pledged as collateral for this?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay, I must have misread that then. But even with all that being said, I feel like this is we're going to have to bite off bigger things, and I realize that, and we've got limited funds and everything going on in the world right now, but we're going to have to make this more of a priority. Maybe I'm looking at this completely wrong, but I don't think coating these, especially with the degradation in the concrete that's there already, if it doesn't hold and that concrete starts to go, what's it look like? Because we're not even coating the whole tanks. So I feel like, my personal opinion, I'm opposed to doing the coating of it and rehabilitation. I wish I wasn't, but it just seems like we should be doing something different.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments?
I'd like to make one other comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Stasiak.
And this is more of a question for Mr. Burke, because we're looking at a process here, and everybody understands that this has been a 3-year process, and you know, it sounds like we haven't done anything during that 3 years, but we've actually tried to maintain these tanks, and we've actually gone into them and tried different types of materials with contractors to try and stop these leaks. But one thing that I want the council to understand is if we go forward with replacing these with steel tanks or concrete tanks, and 2 of them at 1 million gallons, that process, by the time you take it through a vote of the people, order the tanks, get them constructed, we're probably 2 years down the road, at least, on 2 tanks that are currently failing on us, that we've tried everything under the sun to try and maintain these tanks. And that's if we get an affirmative vote of the public, of the people.
The way I look at it is there is no doubt that in the future we are going to have a new water plant. As to when that is, we can have a little bit of control over that by how we refurbish the plant that we currently have to make it last longer. We've put a lot of money into it. We've got new pumps. We've got, I believe we did all of the filters fairly recently. You know, so we did new controls. We've got a lot of the bones of the current plant that we have are not as old as the plant is chronologically. So, you know, putting new tanks into it would be nice if we could do it, but it's kind of like putting, you know, $2,000 wheels on a used car. You know, I think the best thing that we could do is make the minimal investment we can to get the best life out of this, and knowing that it's finite. I mean, that we are in sometime in the next 10 to 20 years going to have to build a new plant. So that's my 2 cents on it. Councilman Brown?
Just one more thing about
Mayor, this is Councilman Cox.
Hold on for a second, Councilman Cox. I got Vice Mayor Brown first.
I have a quick question. Thank you, Mayor. So basically, this is going to be, I don't know what's the math, $900,000 for, can everybody hear me, understand me? $900,000 for 15 years or 10 years? Because I'm looking at something here that says 10, and then something says 15.
It says 10 plus years,
Okay.
okay? It's hard to predict exactly the life of the material we're gonna put in there, but Mr. Stasiak is correct. We've been told 10 to 15 years.
Okay. At $900,000 a year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman,
Make sure I understood.
Councilman Cox, go ahead.
Okay, we keep saying that the life expectancy is 10 to 15 years, but in reality, we've got a 5-year warranty. So we're going to spend $900,000 to get us 5 years, guaranteed 5 years. To me, this is another Band-Aid approach where we're fixing a problem that should have been fixed several years ago, and today we should be discussing, you know, new systems and not trying to piece together and patch together an old system. At some point, we're going to have to make the hard decision as the council on how to move forward with current new equipment. So with that, what would happen if we coated the one that did clear well and moved out with the process of going out and getting the capital project, 2 new ones.
Could you repeat that, because you broke up a little bit?
I said, what would the possibility be of coating the one good clear well, probably an estimate a half of, so somewhere around 450 to 500,000, to basically band-aid it together while we pursue the needed action of going out and getting a capital expenditure of putting 2 new tanks in.
Well, I think if you're doing that, you're looking at spending 3 million versus spending 900,000, knowing that at the end of either project, we're still gonna be spending, 30 million for a new plant.
But the way he briefed it, these clear wells are going to be good for 50 years. So even if we get a new plant, the briefing was that the clear wells would be able to be used with the new plant. So take the clear wells out of context of a new plant. To me, they're 2 separate actions, and the action is in front of us today.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. The thing that I look at, though, is the fact that we've got the huge amount of debt that we do, and spending, the 2.5 million now, as opposed to spending, 500,000 now. It's basically buying the time. I'm not saying it's a good deal by any means, but we just don't have the money. And to do 2.5 million, we've got to go to a vote of the people, and we've got to come up with a way to fund that, which is just, it's a pretty big gamble. Are there any other questions or comments?
At some point,
Okay,
at some point, we're going to have to make that decision of how we're going to move forward. And to me, it seems like we keep talking the water plant. It's this and this and this, and I understand the debts, but at some point in time, the council is going to have to decide what we're going to do to move forward, debt or no debt.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. My point is, though, the longer that we can put that off, the more debt that we can get paid down, so that we're in a better shape financially when we do have to do it.
Mayor, Councilman Stevens again. Just to reiterate what Councilman Cox was saying, if we finance this for 10 years, it will be over $1 million devoted to doing coding that we hope is better than 5 to 10 to 15 years. I completely agree with him on possibly coding one of them and then actually looking to go out and try to get a vote of the people and put some of these in and start working our way towards that. I think it's a mistake to invest such a large sum for hopefully guarantee of 5 years and then onward. So my opinion again.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor, this is Councilman. Yeah, this is Councilman Pritchard. I have another question.
Go ahead.
This may have been covered in the presentation, but I don't remember. What is I know we have 2 different wells that combine to form 2 million gallons capacity. What is the ideal capacity we would want to have, clear well capacity out there?
2 million is the ideal capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Councilman Smith?
What was the deal you mentioned with the 10-year guarantee?
When we go out for proposals, if we go out for proposals, one of the things that we would request from the material and the contractor themselves is to provide what type of a warranty that they would provide with their work. And I actually had one of the guys that I talked to, he said, well, we could guarantee this up to 10 years. Now, if he actually put that in writing, I don't know, but that's what he said.
Thanks.
That's the reason I put it on one of the items for selection.
All right, if there's not anything else, we will move on to agenda item number 2. I'll give you one last call.
Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, we'll move to agenda item number 2, consider and act upon authorization for staff to initiate a loan between the McAllister Public Works Authority, an authority of the city, and First National Bank to fund clear well improvements identified as MC-19-27 by Infrastructure Solutions Group, LLC. Ms. Swift.
Good evening, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Burke, for your presentation. And so my role in this, to continue with the conversation about the financing. So with the conversation of the rehab for the clear wells, we went out to our local banks, and what you have in your packet is what we had received in return, and asking that we go with First National Bank with the 10-year loan to finance the rehab at a 2.73% interest rate.
Are there any questions or comments?
What'd you say the rate was?
2.73
Okay,
is the
it says
current rate.
2.98 on
No, I think there's.
that. Am I looking at something different?
Yeah, I think there's 3 schedules in there.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, I'm just double checking.
We had asked them to prepare for us a 10, a 12, and a 15-year rate or terms.
I see.
Yeah,
I might have
for that $900,000.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stevens again.
Go ahead, Ken.
Ms. Swift, do you remember in our capital improvement or in the budget what we have allocated for the clear wells?
I didn't bring the CIP, but I did bring my budget, and I don't have any money allocated to the clear wells as far as the budget is concerned, but it could be in the capital improvement. But
Okay.
Councilman Smith, where you're making a motion to,
Yes, sir.
for the 10-year at 2.73 on First National. Is there a second? Second, Vice Mayor Brown. Is there any further discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
No.
Stevens,
No.
Cox,
No.
Boatright,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We are now on to agenda item number 3. Consider and act upon authorizing the city manager to accept a grant award from the Oklahoma Highway Safety Office in the amount of $43,270 to implement the McAllister Traffic Enforcement Program.
Mayor, tonight we have Officer Parker and Chief of Police Hurd here to discuss the grant opportunity presented or brought to you tonight.
Gentlemen?
Basically, from what I understand, this grant will allow us to have officers work overtime to do traffic control. Is that
It's
correct?
traffic enforcement, traffic safety,
Yeah.
whether it be speed, stoplights, stop signs, seat belts, baby, car seats, DUIs, whatever the case may be, various locations throughout the city.
And the way it works is, for instance, you work your shift and you say, hey, I'll work 2 hours out on the highway, and we pay you, then we get reimbursed by this grant.
Yes, sir, 100%.
Are there any questions?
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's 100% reimbursed through our overtime.
I couldn't hear. Go ahead.
The overtime is reimbursed back through the city. Once the guys work it 1 month, they write a report, their hours down. I write a report up, submit it to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City approves it, turn right around, sends the city of McAllister a check for the amount of overtime that the guys were out. Through this grant, we also get equipment, radars, PBTs, LiDARs, different things to use out here. It also allows us to go to training, and they pay for that too.
Great.
Is there a certain, Mayor,
Go ahead.
certain requirement? Do you have to write so many tickets
You gotta
for a
have-
year for this?
You gotta have so many contacts per hour. It's not tickets, not warnings.
Just-
You gotta
just
have so many contacts.
Contacts?
Yes, so many traffic stops per hour,
Okay. Per hour?
per hour.
Any other questions?
Mayor, Councilman Victor, how many contacts per hour do you have to have?
2. Gotta have 2 traffic stops per hour.
Any other
Mayor,
questions?
this is Councilman Stevens.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure who's speaking. I didn't hear who it was. But do you feel like this is putting you in unnecessarily in harm's way by doing this or requiring this of you all?
No, sir, I do not. Our accident numbers have
Okay.
went down, and our speeding violations have went down also since we've been doing this grant. The number of DUI arrests and DUI accidents has also went down.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? I'm going to take a motion in a second to, motion Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any further discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
No.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
Good job.
Thank you.
We're on to agenda item number 4. Consider and act upon a resolution supporting an application to the Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grants for fiscal year 2021. Is this yours, Mr. Stasiak?
Mayor, this is a grant opportunity that we are putting together for our Water Smart. What we've identified is Infrastructure Solutions. During their presentation, this is one of the items that they identified as being in great need for our community. This is the replacement of the water line from the Buffalo Tank down to Carl Albert Parkway, and also includes improvements to 3 of our towers, which includes new valves, new altimeters. Does it include SCADA? No, it does not include SCADA. But the entire project outlined for this resolution comes to $936,000. And with this grant opportunity and this resolution to go ahead and submit tonight, it would be paid on a 50-50 reimbursement. So we're looking at about $470,000 for the city's part and $470,000 in grant. Mr. Burke, do you have anything else to?
No,
Add to this?
you pretty much covered it, Pete. If you remember, I'll just say one thing here. If you remember right, the presentation I gave before about the water system itself, we talked about the water towers are not being utilized fully. This would take care of that also.
So this would fit into one of those critical needs.
It's actually the first one, yes, sir, or part of the first one.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Stephanie Giacomo. I did just want to clarify real quick that the submission is actually for the city to cover 53% of the cost at $500,000, and for the granting organization to fund the remaining 47%.
Okay, thank you. I am going to call a quick recess while we're waiting for Councilman Brown to be back. He should be back very quickly. I mean, so we can vote on it. when he gets back in, just give him a real, very quick synopsis of the, what,
When did he leave?
just right at the very beginning.
Okay.
All right, we're back in session. City manager's just gonna give you a quick synopsis on this.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Brown, this is a project that was identified by ISG, Infrastructure Solutions Group, as one of our top projects for fixing our water system. If you remember, about a month ago, there was a presentation of about $30 million worth of projects. This project actually replaces the water line from the Buffalo Tower down to Carl Albert Parkway. And in conjunction with that, it also does tower improvements to the Skyline Tower, the Buffalo Tower, and the Seminole Tower. If you remember, we do not have the capability to fill those tanks fully. These improvements, along with the valves and the altimeter valves, those type of things, would allow us to be able to fill those tanks to their maximum capacity and thus be able to utilize all of those tanks. So this project is estimated to be about $936,000. The resolution tonight is authorization to submit the grant, and this grant is on a 50-50 basis. So about $470,000 for city funds, about $470,000 in grant funds.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And of course, if we don't get the grant, we wouldn't go forward
We'll
with
have
the
to mess
project.
with it. Okay.
So is there a motion and a second? The motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any further discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're now on to agenda item number 5. Consider and act upon accepting the bid amount of $91,248.53 from Bates Instrumentation LLC and authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award for the Wade Watts Sidewalk Project.
Council, this project went out to bid August the 27th. We had 6 contractors that requested plans and specifications. We had 4 that elected to provide bids on the project. The low bidder is Bates Instrumentation. We have worked with them in the past, and we feel like that they're qualified to do the job. Their bid price was $91,248.53. Our recommendation is awarded to the low bidder.
Mr. Titsworth, you signed up on this one.
John Titsworth, 1010 Douglas McAllister. My first thinking when I read this before I came up here was the furloughs and the layoffs at the city. And by doing that, it would not make sense to me to be spending money like this. But after the 3 of the other 4 items leading up to this, it sounds more prudent for the city to me. Instead of spending the money for a sidewalk, it sounds like we need water solutions way more than a sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Councilman Smith?
Do you have an opinion on that, Pete?
Not at this point, I don't know. We've talked, well, yes. We've talked about walkability and the ability of our citizens to be able to get around our community for some time. Couple of areas that we've identified, one being Wade Watts from Strong Boulevard to the underpass, and the amount of people that are walking to the other side of the highway in order to go to work. They've beat down trails on both sides of the street. The other areas that we've identified for walkability are the people coming out of the Connolly addition, on the other side of Electric, down Strong Boulevard to get to the high school and to the other schools, also to get to the hospital and all the way up to Carl Albert Parkway. Those are heavily trafficked, foot traffic areas. This is something we've talked about for years. It's something that the council has shown an interest to, and it is part of our infrastructure money, is how we would fund this.
We do not currently have any furloughed employees, correct?
We do not have any furloughed employees.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Mayor, Councilman Pritchard, can I ask one?
Go ahead.
How far will the sidewalk be from the curb of the roadway?
Right now, we have it about 3 feet from the curb.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And I believe that's a 4-foot sidewalk, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Council
Where's the
Boatright?
money coming from?
It is part of our infrastructure fund money, which is a sales tax that's been dedicated to infrastructure for water, sewer, roads, all those type of items.
And it's earmarked, it's only can be used for that, correct?
Can only be used for infrastructure
Infrastructure.
improvements.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any, excuse me, any other questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion? Motion, Councilman Smith.
I'll
Second.
make a motion, Mayor.
Okay. Council Smith, had made it, but I'll give you the second.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox, Councilman Cox,
Yeah.
Brown,
Yes.
Boatright,
No.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We are now on to agenda item number 6. Consider an act upon authorizing the purchase of a 2019 Western Star 4700 SB roll-off truck from Premier Truck Sales in Tulsa. Mr. Stasiak?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, this is to replace a truck that's approximately 20 years old. We've had a number of issues with this truck here recently. This is a truck that travels to Durant and takes all of our recycling items that are collected at the recycling center down to Durant to be recycled. That is our only place to be able to deliver our plastics, paper items. So that it's very important for our recycling process. This is also the truck that takes care of our sludge bins out at the water plant. Those sludge bins, there's 4 of them. We empty 1 or 2 of those every day, and that has to be hauled to the landfill. And then we use that dirt or mud, whatever you want to call it, as cover for our landfill material. This truck is extremely important, and without it, we're going to have to make some changes going forward because it's on its last leg.
Mr. Titsworth, I've got you down on this one as well.
John Titsworth, 1010 Douglas, McAllister. This is another item that could be spent money in the water plant area, but leading up to this, couple loads a week, I think, go from the recycling center to Durant. I was in the trucking business for almost 40 years, so I have experience in this. 30 years of it was here in McAllister, Oklahoma. 25 of those years, we ran roll-off trailers.
had 600 roll-off boxes all over the United States. With a double roll-off trailer contracted out to the company that I sold out to, they can haul you 2 boxes to Durant, 1 load a week. The same thing goes for hauling to the landfill out there. It doesn't justify buying a $170,000 bobtail to do that when you can contract that out to local contractors. You're spending money on something that you shouldn't be doing. Yeah, your old trucks wore out, but you had no business being in the roll-off business to begin with. This could easily be contracted out to someone that knows what they're doing, that does this, and do it the way it should be, especially when a double trailer going to Durant. The local stuff, there's different ways to do that on those roll-off boxes also. You could buy or a contractor would have a single roll-off trailer. There's numerous ways of doing this without spending $170,000.
Can you give us a ballpark of what a run to Durant would cost with the
I'm not up to date on rates because
Yeah,
I've been
just
out
a
of it for
ballpark.
5 years, but like that's down there and back, you know, it's 200-mile round trip. And you're doing it twice a week with a bobtail, and you could do it one time with a double trailer. It would basically cut your cost in half, really. I don't know exactly what, with a $160,000-$170,000 truck, plus what you're paying someone to drive it and fuel and everything else, you're gonna have to pay basically the same thing in a doubles trailer's taking it down there, so, you know, it would be more efficient to contract it out.
Yeah, I know zero about the trucking industry. I don't know if they charge by weight, by mile, by,
Well, it just, you know, it depends on what the contract it is and how often you're doing it and what you're doing. You know, if they had a local driver doing it, just, you know, or someone, it just depends on what they're doing and the repetitiveness, especially if you're hauling boxes out, you know, to the landfill every day from the water plant. Or you could even do that stuff from the water plant and get that compressed and bricked like it should be and dry it out, put it in the dump, one of your little dump trailers, and not do it with a roll-off and take it to the water plant like that. I mean, to the landfill with a little dump truck. Then you wouldn't be required to do it with roll-offs.
Mayor? Oh. I was just gonna make a motion that we table this, and let's get some numbers on contracting.
Certainly.
is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Boatwright? Yeah, that, I mean, if we can do it cheaper.
Yeah, I think you can, because if I was still, there's no way I'd spend $170,000 for a bobtail roll-off. I couldn't justify that. And I talked to a salesman that I've dealt with for years about this morning. The reason this is a 2019 Western Star is because they special order these trucks. They're double framed, extended from the factory, and then it comes to Tulsa. They put the lift on it there. A lot of these trucks, from what he was saying, have an 80,000-pound lift. For a bobtail, you don't need that because you can only gross 60,000 pounds, trucking, you know, and everything on it. So you'll probably, something right here is something that you wouldn't need anyway. It's overdone. this
bigger than
truck,
what
an 80,000-pound lift. You do not need that with a bobtail. You can only haul 80,000 pounds on a 5-axle truck tractor.
Would, assuming we were to do this, would the trucking business be like, we could contract with someone to say, hey, we need you twice a week, every week, at a certain price?
Yeah. But like I'm saying, with a doubles trailer, you can haul 2 boxes.
Yeah, I was just using
One
that as an
time a week,
example.
yeah.
But I mean, that just, because the only thing I would be concerned with is, we need to get it hauled away and they're busy doing something else.
Well, I know, and they might, if you're having stuff coming from the water plant every day, and like I said, I would work on compressing that and get it into bricks where it's easier than just put it in a dump, one of your little dump trailers and haul it out there instead of buying 170,000 plus dealing with your roll-off boxes. And this other, they have a local driver, people that we sold to. They're here every day, so they could work out a schedule. And I'm serious, it would be way more efficient than spending this kind of money. Plus, then you got the maintenance of it, you got the fuel, you got to pay a driver. It's an ongoing expense. And
thank you.
someone that does this for a living can do a better job of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there, any other questions or comments? We do have a motion and a second already.
Mayor, what is the motion?
The motion is to table this, but if we table, I think we have to set a date. Would you prefer to change it to postpone?
Postpone it. I'll postpone it for a month.
Well, postpone, we can bring it back
Indefinite.
anytime.
Okay, postpone it indefinitely. Okay.
Councilman Boatright, is your second still good on that? Okay. Yeah, so the motion is actually to postpone action on this. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 7. Consider and act upon declaring certain vehicles surplus property in accordance with the Code of Ordinances, Section 2-410, and authorize the city manager to sell them in accordance with the Code of Ordinance, Section 2-411. Mr. Stasiak.
Mayor, members of the council, these are all vehicles that have been replaced over the last 6 months or so. Council approved a large expenditure about 6 or 8 months ago to replace some of these vehicles that were in desperate need. These vehicles represent all areas of the city, from inspectors to landfill to utility maintenance, water treatment, animal control, parks. They're coming from all areas and have been replaced with newer versions or newer vehicles. Each one of these vehicles have extended their life beyond their useful life. Staff recommends surplusing all vehicles.
Are there any questions or comments? To take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 8. Consider and act upon authorizing the purchase of one new and unused 2020 Police Pursuit Dodge Charger for $25,918 on State of Oklahoma Vehicle Contract SW035 pursuant to Section 2-382 of McAllister City Code. Chief Hurd.
Chief Hurd, this vehicle is to replace one that's involved in an accident about a month ago. It was not our officer's fault. The other insurance company has deemed that the vehicle was totaled. So fleet maintenance has already taken all the aftermarket stuff off, the radios, the dash, all the lights, sirens, stuff that wasn't destroyed. The insurance is paid, so the difference between what the insurance paid and what the new vehicle is like $7,977.
Any questions? Take a motion in a second. Motion, Vice Mayor Brown, second Councilman Smith. Any discussion? Corge, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox, Councilman Cox,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 9. Thank you, Chief. Consider and act upon an ordinance amending ordinance number 2687, which established the budget for fiscal year 2020-2021, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for severability clause, and declaring an emergency. Ms. Swift.
Here once again. In this ordinance, what we are wanting to do is to amend our budget to cover our proposed revenue and expenditures included in this year. We've attached in your packet, you'll have exhibits A1 through A7. Oops, got those backwards. Exhibit 1 is, I forgot what we were doing here.
It's appropriating
Yes.
merit
Sorry.
increases and clothing allowance for the 911 department.
Yes, in the amount of $8,892, merit increases for that department, plus half of clothing allowance. Exhibit number 2 is appropriating funds for merit increases and half of clothing allowances for economic development for $1,537. Exhibit number 3 for tourism in the amount of $2,179. Exhibit 4 is fleet maintenance. For $4,830. Exhibit 5 for nutrition is $2,470. Exhibit number 6 is $165,433, which is in interdepartmental general fund. And then finally, number 7 for MPWA for the amount of $26,071.
Are there any questions? Take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion?
One question.
Okay, go ahead.
On the nutrition fund, what is all that money going to? Where does it go? $187,000.
Nutrition.
On item 6, A6.
Oh, for the general fund, that's going to all of the different departments in the general fund, which would be, those departments include city manager, which is 4 individuals, city clerk, finance, municipal court, legal, IT, CID, patrol, fire, and, communications, parks and recreation.
I think Councilman
Yeah.
Boatright was
Oh.
asking specifically on nutrition.
I
Oh.
was just on nutrition only.
Oh, sorry.
It says,
Oh,
third
numbers.
item, it says interdepartmental transfer to nutrition fund. The increase is what's being sent over is the $2,470.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, the hundred, what, the big number you said is what their actual budget was prior to this, then the
Right.
2,400 is the adjustment, and the other number is what it
Okay,
would be afterwards.
understand.
Sorry about that, I misunderstood the question.
I thought, so.
Sorry.
All right, any other questions? All right, I take a motion in a second to approve. Motion Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any further discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. This has an emergency with it, so I need a motion and a second on the emergency. Motion Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. This is, we're moving close to getting our employees back to whole, aren't we? So this is kind of nice that we can do that.
Yes, sir, we are. It's a big step.
Okay, we are now on to new business, any matter not known or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting the agenda in accordance with section 311.9, Title 25 Oklahoma State statutes. Do we have any new business, Mr. Stasiak?
We do not, Mayor.
And we will go to city manager's report.
A couple items for you tonight, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to let you know that as we rebuild the employees here at the City of McAllister and the positions, we have advertised for the animal control person. Interviews are taking place tomorrow, and we have 4 strong candidates for that position. A determination will be made sometime this week with possibly an offer. So we hope to have that position filled very soon. We've also been doing testing in our police department. We're in the process of looking at 2 strong candidates to join our police department here at the city, so we're pretty excited about that. One is CLEAT certified, the other one will have to be sent to CLEAT school. So, but we've got a couple of good opportunities there. Our tourism department is currently working on the sign west of town that blew over in the storm. We hope to sometime this month have some depictions for the council to take a look at. That sign will include some form of lighting so that you'll be able to see it at night. Also, our tourism department, Eddie and Billy, are both working diligently on our move to McAllister draft plan that Councilman Pritchard brought up a couple of weeks ago. And we will be moving that forward and for council's consideration, either at the second meeting in September or the first meeting in October, so that's coming together. Our preliminary sales tax number for September came in, again, very, very strong. It came in at $1.26 million, almost a little over $1.25 million. Our budget is $995,000 for the month. So a very, very strong month, $265,000 over budget, and these are preliminary numbers. Year to date, the first 3 months of the year, we are $984,000 over budget, our sales tax. Our use tax came in strong again at $162,000 versus a budget of $136,000. We are right at $100,000 over budget for our use tax, or almost $1.1 million over budget. This has been what has been able for us to bring back furloughed employees, be able to reinstate benefits, be able to do some of the things that were taken away from our employees during the pandemic and the initial response to that pandemic. It's also been given us the ability the last couple of months to forego the furlough days. So it's been a great benefit to the city. Mayor, you brought up the question or the comment about our employees. Our budget for this year is 210 employees. Put that into context, last year we were at 227 employees. So we're budgeted for 210, we're currently at 187. All furloughed employees have been brought back. We are currently working on the employees that took early retirement and looking at each one of those positions and methodically evaluating each one. Our asphalt overlay, I mentioned this earlier in the night, $560,000 project. They hit the ground running about 2 weeks ago. They're currently doing asphalt overlays up in the Northtown area, and that project is going very well. They've been very diligent at getting this asphalt down and better roads for our community. Councilman Stevens had proposed a PPE program for businesses, and that has been very well received by the community. Everybody that we've come in contact with has been extremely appreciative of this program. To date, we have distributed PPE, which includes 200 masks and 3 bottles of sanitizer, to 35 businesses. Today we have 7 more pending, and like I said, they're very, very appreciative of this program and the city's help in these matters. So it's a good thing. The last thing I wanted to bring up, Mayor, is we are working on the rural water rates. We're currently working with our bond council, which is Municipal Finance Services. They're the ones that put together the programs for municipalities when they're looking at improving their water, sewer systems, streets, water plants, sewer plants, all those type of different areas. They're experts in putting together rate studies. So not only are they working with our accountants, also our auditors, and they'll be working with staff. And once we get some basic information pulled, then we'll be putting together a work group, which will include the rural districts and then anybody that you would like to assign from this council, so that we can start working through these numbers and letting everybody know how we're coming up with these numbers for the future. So that's moving very quickly.
Great.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Remarks and inquiries by the council. Councilman Stevens?
No, thank you.
Councilman Cox?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilman Brown?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. I've had people ask me, if we're gonna replace, or are we trying to recruit somebody in place of like Stage and Penny's is going out, and I don't know what we're doing economically. I mean, I don't know if we're out trying to, I'm sure we're trying to recruit businesses, but I don't know if we're gonna replace those businesses.
Councilman, we don't replace them, developers replace them, and it's based on business plans that these organizations have. We reach out to everybody constantly to make sure that all of our businesses are full, all of our developments are full. To put it into context, this new shopping center took almost 5 years to put that project together. I don't know what's going to go into Stage. I don't know what's going to go into JCPenney. I know that the owner of that facility is working diligently to make sure that those businesses are occupied, but we're not involved in that process.
Okay. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Boatright?
Let everybody know that we had the Old Town Festival last weekend, and there was a lot of people there. They set up booths by Jet Tires there in that vacant lot, and they was 12, 15 booths set up there, plus all the businesses were doing real well. Well, I made my trip through there Friday and then back through there Sunday, and they were a lot of people there.
And I didn't even realize they were doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Do you have anything?
That's all.
Right. Councilman Pritchard?
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
All right. We're on to mayor's comments and committee appointments. The McAllister Krebs citywide garage sale, will be coming up in October, and there are no fees this time, and if you would like to be included in it, you need to call 918-424-9600 before September 28th. So I know I've had a lot of questions on if it was going to happen this year, and it is going to happen. So if you're interested in it, that's in participating or just shopping, it will be happening in the first part of October.
Mind everybody to social distance.
Yeah. Use your heads, use common sense, and social distance. I've met with the pastor that spoke at our last meeting, and had a very good meeting with him, and we discussed the mask ordinance, and there were some current concerns that some of the church communities have had, and I think it was a very good discussion. I learned a lot from him, and I think he learned from me, and we both came away from it agreeing that we were going to keep in contact with each other, so that we'll have a better hand in knowing what kind of issues that things like churches are having. And it was, like I said, a very good meeting, and I was very happy that we got to do that. And then the last thing I have is, Mr. Stasiak, could you have traffic control go by 436 West Adams? There seems to be a parking issue there, and this is the lady at 436 would, if we just can talk to her as to what's going on it. And she gave me her name, but I forgot to write that down. And with that, we will recess the council meeting, and I would take a motion to convene as McAllister Airport Authority, and motion to include approval of minutes from the August 25th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAllister Airport Authority. Confirm action taken on item C9 and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. Now take a motion to convene as McAllister Public Works Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the August 25th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAllister Public Works Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda items C, 2, 5, 6, 7, 9, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Stevens?
No.
Cox?
No.
Brown?
Yes.
Pritchard?
No.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We are now, need a executive session, recess into executive session, proposed executive session pursuant to Title 25, Section 307B2, to discuss negotiations concerning employees and representatives of employee groups, in this case, the FOP. So I need a motion and a second to go into executive session. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Stevens? Cox,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and we're now in executive session.
Stephanie, do we need to call the council on another phone, or what's the process at this point?
Call them on that phone.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Mr. Stanford will help them